The Legend of Zelda is a story that doesn't begin with Princess Zelda. It takes shape through the one who first set her destiny in motion. She did not create this land of Hyrule, but the world was left in her care, and ever since, it has moved piece by piece towards her chosen end. Hylia is the radiant and ancient goddess who raised Skyloft into the sky, sealed demise for a time, and gave up her divinity so others could live. It's a legend told with reverence, one that shaped the foundation of Hyrule's history. But when we start to look closer, her facade of righteousness begins to reveal its fractures. In this video, we'll revisit Hylia's legacy and examine her benevolent actions as a divine while shedding light upon her morally questionable decisions. Whether she was a savior, a manipulator, or something in between, that's for you to decide. The Goddess Hylia, the one tasked by the old gods with the care of the Triforce, was once burdened with a grave situation. An old acquaintance, the being called Demise, had assaulted the land in his conquest to claim the Triforce for his own. To protect her people from the surface war, Hylia lifted a portion of the world into the skies, creating a safe haven that would come to be known as Skyloft. This decision has long been remembered as a divine act of salvation from a benevolent goddess. However, the light of this action casts a shadow. Not everyone was lifted. Not everyone was saved. According to legend, those lifted into the sky weren't just random survivors. They were the people of Hylia, denoted by their tall ears that was said to allow them to hear the voices of the gods. The Hylians are a unique group among all the races of Hyrule and beyond. Many other humans exist outside of the Hylian bloodline. Those with round, mundane ears like the villagers of Ordona, or the nomadic Gerudo who worship their own gods, the citizens of Holodrum and Labrina, Hytopia, and more. Who shielded these souls from Demise's wrath? Did Hylia choose to save her favorites and leave the rest in the wake of chaos? Do those people have a right to be angry with her, or is Hylia justified in this situation? If you were one who was left behind, would you forgive her? Tell us what you think in the comments section. In saving a chosen few, Hylia acted to secure the future of Hyrule, but she did so by leaving countless others behind. Hylia is a goddess of prescience, and her foresight revealed that her efforts to seal Demise would be temporary. For this reason, Hylia hatched a two-part plan in order to address this shortcoming. Fi, you remember what she said, don't you?
Of course, Master, recalling her Grace's words. In order to put an end to the Demon King, Hylia devised two separate plans and set them both into motion. First, she created Fi. She made the spirit that resides in your sword to serve a single purpose, to assist her chosen hero on his mission. Her second plan was to abandon her divine form and transfer her soul to the body of a mortal. She made this sacrifice, as you have likely guessed, so that the supreme power created by the old gods could one day be used.
This is a revelation that tells two important things: that Hylia has good intentions, and that the sight of the goddess is fallible. Her divine acts are aimed at protecting the land and guarding against evil. However, the fact that she saw the need for a backup plan, as well as not having enough foresight to prevent Demise's advent in the first place, tells us that her foreknowledge has serious limitations, and many lives paid the price. Hylia decided that the best course of action was to leave her godhood behind and mantle the form of a mortal, who we would come to know as Zelda, a vessel through which the Triforce's power could be used. This would allow Hylia to use the Triforce to stop Demise, a fact that is confirmed by the Japanese text that states that Hylia wanted to use the ancient god's legacy. She further states that gods such as herself cannot use the Triforce's power, which is why a mortal form was needed. For the purpose of claiming omnipotent power, she had to use the body of a human, an act which ultimately ended up being in vain, as this duty ended up falling to the hero, Link. While this was done with the best of intentions, a question must be raised. Did Hylia's claim over Zelda's form rob her of her agency? As for Link, Hylia's puppet strings pulled him along towards his fate as well. We don't know exactly how Hylia came to be the goddess who watches over the Triforce. It is said that the Old Ones, the Golden Goddesses, placed this burden upon Hylia. We know for a fact that Hylia had to come into existence after Furore gave life to the world. It was this act of creation that brought forth all spirits and life, including gods like the Great Deku Tree. Whether Hylia is a being that was created by the Golden Goddesses directly, or was once a mortal who ascended from the mundane into the tapestry of the divine, I can only speculate. However, I believe everyone would agree that the burden placed on her was one that made the ramifications of her decisions nearly impossible to navigate perfectly. With the weight of the world resting on her shoulders, the line between guidance and control may have begun to blur. Perhaps Hylia believed that a single misstep could unravel everything that she had tried to protect. Rather than hang her hopes on the whims of a mortal, she designed a future with little margin for error. A future where outcomes mattered more than the choices that led to them. In forging that path, she ensured that Link would walk it, not of his own agency, but because she had set his destiny before he was formed in his mother's womb. Towards this end, she took the one thing that Link loved most and placed it just beyond his reach. Zelda, his childhood friend, someone we're meant to believe he cared deeply for, was ripped from his world and cast into danger. With every trial he faced, every monster he endured, her safety was dangled ahead like a prize in a cruel game. Link didn't get to join the fight because he believed in some higher purpose. He fought because she was in danger, and that's the tragedy. The goddess didn't need to trick him. The Great Deku Tree asked. The Light Spirits asked. The King of Red Lions asked. But Hylia? She calculated, guided, and pulled the strings. She didn't need to manipulate his heart. All she had to do was ask.
Master, I have critical information. Allow me to recall what Her Grace said to my previous master. I knew that if it meant saving Zelda, you would throw yourself headfirst into any danger, without even a moment's doubt. I used you. I can't begin to tell you how sorry I am for pulling you into all of this, Link. But you have to understand this is a war, and the fate of the land hangs in the balance. I need your strength to tip the scales in our favor. All that may be well-intentioned and true, but it doesn't mean it's right, and it doesn't excuse my actions. Her Grace's divine duty was to protect the Triforce and her people. This responsibility is not one that could be ignored or delayed. Hylia's plan was calculated to have a high chance of success, fulfilling her obligation as goddess. Under the circumstances, although my master was endangered by this plan, it should be observed that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one.
That is a point worth considering, Vi. We can only do our best with any of the situations that we are faced with in our lives. If you were in Hylia's position, do you think that you would have made the same choices as she did? Or do you think that there may have been a better way? How do you think Link felt about the fact that he was being used? Even though he stepped into his role that the goddess had prepared for him, could he have reached his potential simply by being asked instead? Among all of the races under Hylia's jurisdiction, Perhaps the most overlooked are the ancient robots of Lanayru. Their small mechanical bodies and stuttering speech make them easy to dismiss as simple tools of labor or relics of a bygone era. However, the sands of Lanayru hide an inconvenient truth regarding the living conditions of the LD units. The LD model of robots are custodians of the Dragon of Lanayru Desert. While these robots have existed since long before Lanayru dried up, their duties carried on. The robots were so diligent in their service to the dragon, and by proxy, the goddess, that they toiled in the mines digging up time shift stones for Hylia's Gates of Time until they ceased functioning altogether. They weren't just following orders, they believed in what they were doing. They dug, they guarded, and served, not out of protocol, but out of loyalty. But they were left to rust beneath the sand. Yet this is not the end of the drab existence for these units. Upon the sand ship, a unique crew of robots sailed the ancient seas, keeping a vigil over the task entrusted to them by her grace. The duty of guarding the sacred flame of Nehru was placed upon these automatons, but when speaking with them, they expressed their concerns with their task. LD-301N Skipper expresses his crew's fear of the pirates that have chased them across the seas. Furthermore, these robots express human-like traits of caring for their families. This is evidenced by a comment from Skipper, where he expresses his desire to go home and see his family. Within his cabin, a note can be found from his son that reads, "Dear Dad, good luck at work." Given that the LD series of robots are forced into these laborious and dangerous positions at the command of the goddess and her dragons, it raises a question. Where is her pity for these lives and these families? Was it okay to relegate them to their fates since they were only machines and Hylia's property? Or should they have been given a choice? Several robots expressed their desire to go on an adventure of their own. A life shackled to the sacred flame or the time shift stone mines prevented that. We know one thing for certain. Hylia isn't evil. This is a fact proven by the existence of the Blade of Evil's Bane, the Master Sword. She was burdened with the responsibility that no one else could shoulder, the protection of the Triforce and her people. When you're the one holding all of the pieces, is it possible to play the game without moving others against their will? Many of her choices were for the greater good, but how many of them left someone behind in silence? Can a goddess weighed down by duty still see the lives beneath her clearly? Or does the scale of her vision blur the faces of the very people she hoped to protect? What do you think? Was Hylia justified in her methods? Or did her divine foresight fall short? Let me know in the comments section. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time on the Fused Kinstone.